This video is brought to you by Portrait Mode. More on them later in the video. So this cheap and plasticky little prime is the lens that will put me in the situations to take my best photos ever, I hope. Let me start by asking you a question. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where, just before your eyes, you have one of the most beautiful scenes you've seen in a while, but regret not having a good camera to capture it? If you're like me, probably too many times, but now that I own this teeny tiny 35mm prime from Samyang, my hope is to experience this frustrating feeling less than I used to be. As photography enthusiasts or professionals, we spend a lot of time making some research to find the best solutions out there. The sharpest lens, the one with the fastest and most accurate autofocus, the one opening at 1.2, or the one that has a special feel. But what we tend to consider less in our decision-making process is the weight and size of the given lens. The look, the sharpness, and everything that comes with the best ones are very good features to have, of course. But are they really important if most of the time they stay on the shelf because you didn't want to bother carrying such a heavy setup, or simply because you didn't want to damage your expensive investment? By getting this lens, I decided to sacrifice a little bit of quality, a little bit of bokeh, and focus responsiveness, but I am very confident that my productivity, if I can use this word, and my overall exposure to photography will increase. Regardless of how creative you are, regardless of how gifted you are or not, a byproduct of this increased exposure is you making progress and you taking good photos. And now a quick word about Portrait Mode, who are sponsoring this video. Portrait Mode is an online photo sharing platform specifically dedicated to street photography. When navigating the platform, you will notice that there is no video, the pictures are shown in their original format and brought to you in a chronological order. There's also a featured page showing the user's best work. The camera brand and settings are also displayed on some of them to help you understand more about the technical aspects of that photo. Portrait Mode is 100% free to use and available for both desktop and mobile. No one is left behind, as the app can be used on iOS and Android. The community has grown to over 6,000 street photographers, and you can really tell that Portrait Mode is a platform for street photographers made by street photographers. Let's talk about the lens itself. It is the 35mm pancake from Samyang, opening at f2.8. It is very tiny and extremely light. I guess there are only a few screws that are made out of metal and the glass elements, but other than that I think it's only plastic. There is definitely no premium feeling at all, no button or switch on the lens, only a focusing ring. It is not the sharpest lens out there obviously, but when the focus hits perfectly, it is good enough in my opinion. I managed to grab a few very nice portraits of my niece and nephew and had no complaints about the sharpness at 2.8. The autofocus too is not the fastest of course, but honestly, as a Ricoh GR3 and Fuji X-E4 user, even this kind of less accurate and less fast lens on a modern Sony system is already crazy powerful. I use it on my A7 IV, which is a full-frame camera, and the bokeh you get thanks to the full-frame sensor is plenty enough to have a good subject separation at 2.8. Interestingly, this lens has some character and a very pleasing softness in the highlights. I have some diffusion filters that have different indications, so it is difficult to compare, but if you are familiar with the Cine Bloom line from Moment, it almost feels like this lens gives me 3 or 4% of diffusion without filter of course. It works very well during sunny days and produces nice organic images. My goal for the coming few months is getting better with the 35mm focal length. In the past year, I have grown more and more comfortable at 28, 50 and 85, but always found myself struggling at 35mm, especially in the streets. I have the Sigma 1.4 DG/DN and it is truly a fantastic lens, but coming back to the problematic I mentioned earlier, it is a pretty heavy lens. It doesn't give me the feeling of let's go shoot casually with 1 prime today. It's almost the weight of a zoom lens, and this prevented me many times to grab it and go out to shoot. Because I struggle at 35 and had the excuse of the weight of the Sigma, I did not practice a lot, leading to not getting used to that focal length. I was hesitating a lot and almost decided to sell the Sigma to replace it with the SONY A7IV, which is much lighter and still opens at 1.8, but I have a special connection with that Sigma lens and I simply didn't want to get rid of it. Because the Samyang that I bought secondhand, by the way, was so cheap, I could justify having two 35mm primes. They will serve a different purpose in my photography routine. I know that it's a bit of a luxury to keep both, but whenever I get asked or hired to take photos, the weight will not be a major decision factor and I would go for the Sigma. The tiny Samyang will be more of an everyday carry kind of lens. I hope my expectations will materialize, but I can already feel that I start developing a more positive mindset towards the 35mm focal length. When I pair it with my A7IV, the whole setup is only 750 grams. In comparison, my XE4 with 1 prime is about 550 grams. Still, there is a 200 grams difference, but the ergonomics and the deep grip on the A7IV makes it much more comfortable and easy to shoot with for an entire day. Having such a powerful photo and video setup without breaking my back is a little revolution for me. certainly keep posting photos and making YouTube videos using that lens. I am very excited to see how it does in the long run. Thanks for watching until the end. I am probably in Switzerland at the time of releasing this video. I'm visiting my family, but I should still be able to keep up with posting at least one video a week. So see you very soon. Bye.